want to lean on people that are good at what they do.
Right.
Ottawa County's not going to have a horse anytime soon, so
Well,
we're going to utilize
you don't
it.
know what my budget is accounting for next year. Hey,
Then the appointment,
Mr. Berger
brownfield
wasn't built for
redevelopment, to demystify the operations.
What the heck is this?
Okay,
Okay,
insurance
so-
authority, materials management,
I just hit
veteran
myself in the
services, CNA, buy your grandma some AirPods. To break it down into more layman's terms, we're just here to have a little bit of fun. Hey guys, welcome back to Ottawa Out Loud, the official podcast of Ottawa County. I am your host, Scott. As always, we have a fantastic show for you today. This is episode 7. That's pretty sweet. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to learn a little bit about your local government. That's a really cool thing to do, honestly. It's cool to know about local government. It's cool to understand how the world works. It's cool to care about what's going on in your community, and I find that extremely valuable, and I want to thank you for doing that. We do have a great show for you, as always. We're going to be hosting Caleb and Jason from our Veteran Services Department. We're going to be talking all about what their department does, how it's going to be benefiting everybody in our county here, and the things that they have going on. They have a very busy summer, and you have a lot of different ways to get involved. But before that, we have some announcements. It's summertime, y'all. It's summertime, y'all. And no matter your age or life situation, you are missing out if you don't spend some time in an Ottawa County park this summer. And the very best way to do that is through one of the many programs that our Parks and Recreation Department offers. Are you interested in biology, astronomy, wildflowerology, birdology, treeology? There are perfect programs for you for sure. Attend alone, bring a friend, your kids, of course, they're out of school, so they're going to have some extra free time here. There are options that are totally free to attend. And of course, there are going to be a few options that have a small fee, but they try to keep it as affordable as possible because, times are tough. I do want to call out one particular program here called Bites and Bloodsuckers, the lowdown on ticks, mosquitoes, and rabies. On Tuesday, July 8th, the Department of Public Health and the Parks Department are joining forces to host an informative session on how the county monitors tick and mosquito populations and the diseases that they sometimes carry, and what you can do to protect yourself and your loved ones from these diseases. Also, a brief chat about rabies. This event will be at the Nature Education Center at Hemlock Crossing Park in West Olive on Tuesday, July 8th. That's from 6 to 7 p.m. I will be there. I'll also be recording it so that we can post it within 48 hours to those who may not be able to attend. Board meetings and such. We have standing committee meetings. That's our Planning and Policy Committee, and then the Finance and Administration Committee meetings on July 8th. That is at 9 a.m. here at the Fillmore Administration Building in the boardroom. Remember, these meetings are just as important, if not more important, than full board meetings. This is where the specifics of county business, whether it's something financial, whether it's a program or some sort of change in county business, is being brought up. This is where commissioners get to hear about it from departments or from outside partners. This is where the specifics all happen. And then the full board meetings, the next of which is going to be July 22nd at 6:30 p.m., also here at the Fillmore Building in the boardroom. The full board meetings are where they just say, okay, cool, it's approved, right? There's sometimes some extra discussion, but a lot of times they just fly through some of the more specific county business items that you may be interested in. So make sure to tune in to both standing committee meetings and the full board meetings. If you cannot attend, or if you don't have time to watch the recording or the live stream, the day after each meeting, I post meeting minutes. It is a 3 minutes or less summary of the meetings to make sure you're getting at least the most important parts, and you can decide, hey, maybe I want to carve out some time to watch the full meeting. Speaking of meeting minutes, we are actually going to cut to the... Hey there, and welcome back to Meeting Minutes, Ottawa County Board of Commissioners meetings conveniently recapped in 3 minutes or less. Today we're covering the June 24th full board meeting. Remember, you can check out the full recording of this meeting on our YouTube channel, and the meeting agenda and packet are available on miottawa.org. Let's get into it. We began with commendations and life-saving awards presented by the Sheriff's Office, honorary resolutions recognizing high school track and field state champions from the county, and a brief annual implementation plan presentation from Senior Resources, a local organization that provides You guessed it, resources for seniors in Ottawa and surrounding counties. 3 items were pulled from consent resolutions for further discussion, which left 9 that passed. Remember, these items have each been discussed in detail already by the board in the standing committee meetings 2 weeks ago, and you can watch the June 10 meeting minutes to get a quick summary. Moving on to action items. Item A was a motion to approve some staffing adjustments and additions to the environmental public health team using grant funding that was approved at the previous Finance and Administration Committee meeting. The motion passed. Item B was a motion to approve a resolution recognizing July as Ottawa County Veterans Month. The motion passed. Item C was a motion to ratify all contracts executed between May 21 and June 19th of this year. The motion passed. Item D was a motion to approve a fiscal year 2025 budget adjustment for the last month. One adjustment was pulled from this and made into a separate action item, which is coming up, but this motion passed. Item E was a motion to approve a budget adjustment for legal services related to the ongoing litigation around the Crockery Lake Agreement. The motion passed. And that's the end of action items, but that doesn't mean the meeting is over. We had annual reports from the Michigan State University Extension Office within the county and the 20th Circuit Court and Probate Court. And the board discussed their next steps regarding the ongoing hiring process for a county administrator, which will resume within the next few months. And there's your recap for the June 24th full Board of Commissioners meeting. We'll be back in a couple of weeks for the standing committee meetings on July 8th. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. All right, hey everybody, we are back, and I am joined by 2 wonderful gentlemen from our Ottawa County Veterans Services Department. Why don't you introduce yourselves?
Yes, I'm Jason Shackle. I'm the Director of Ottawa County Veteran Services.
And I'm Caleb Warple. I'm the Community Outreach Specialist for Ottawa County Veteran Services.
Very cool. You want to just give us a little bit of a lowdown on what your position does, what your duties look like, and how you, provide value to this lovely county that we call home?
Yeah, I'll kick that off. So, as a Director of Veteran Services, really my role is to look at our strategy and strategically how we get after our mission. And our mission is to provide advocacy and resources to our veterans and their families. Could be, their spouses or minor dependents. So really our goal, our mission, our philosophy is deeds, not words. But my job is really just to identify the trends, the statistics behind what we do, and formulate a really good strategy on how we could better serve our veterans in our community. Another role really is the link between our department, our county board of commissioners, our administrative office, and then we do have a 7-member Ottawa County Veteran Services Committee. They volunteer to be committee members. They get selected to be committee members. They kind of oversee what we do in a way, but really they're the pulse of the community.
Sure.
So they bring in, the good idea fairies and things that we can do.
Perfect. Yeah. And how long have you been with Ottawa County?
It's a little over a year and a half now. I started actually 1 January of 2024. So it's not hard not to remember my anniversary.
Right.
Yeah.
Whew. Easy.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Caleb?
Yeah, so as community outreach, obviously my goal is to outreach to the community.
Crazy.
And so
A job title that actually makes sense.
it is a wild world.
You love to see it.
So part of that is doing, community engagement activities.
Yep.
So whether that's going to events that are happening in the community or hosting our own events that we put on. Another part of that too is digital communication. So whether that's through social media, email marketing, really getting our message out there and letting people know that number 1, we're available, and number 2, we're eager to help.
Yeah, important. I firmly believe in the power of digital communications, seeing
Yes.
as that's my thing as well.
Yeah.
Deeds, not words, but sometimes words
Absolutely.
to talk about the deeds.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here for it. Now, please correct me if I'm wrong, but both of you do have some military history and experience as well. Do you want to talk about that at all, just briefly?
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
I'll kick it off. 24-year Army vet, all 24 years on active duty. I enlisted at 19, pretty much right out of high school. Like most folks that age, don't really know their direction and what they want to do. And when I got out of the service, there was a big piece that was missing. The hardest part of my transition from military service to civilian employment was really, where do I fit?
Yeah.
and where does that camaraderie and teamwork come from, and that sense of mission. I just wanted to continue to serve in some way, some fashion, and that's what I really like about working here in Ottawa County is I feel the work that I do is very nonprofit
Right.
in a way. Even though we are a county department, a lot of what we do is very focused on our veterans and their families. And
Yeah.
that was something that I never really wanted to let go.
That's
so
awesome.
it's a win-win for me.
Yeah. Sweet.
But yeah, I loved my time in the Army and got to see a lot of the world.
Yeah.
And now here I am doing something else I love. So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sweet. Caleb?
Yeah, so I was I'm an Air Force veteran. I spent 4 years in the public affairs field, which is basically what I do now for the county.
Right.
But I did the same thing in the military.
Right.
I did 4 years. In my fourth year, it kind of came screeching to an abrupt halt. I was medically retired out of the Air Force and moved back home to Ottawa County. This has always been home, and really was looking for a purpose similar to Jason, and landed here and doing the work that I do with the county and interacting with veterans. It feels like home, and it feels good to do something that you're passionate about. And so, although I didn't get to do 24 years like Jason, I wanted to, I get to continue to serve now by doing the work for veterans here at Ottawa County.
Yeah. Service always looks different.
Yeah, it does.
To different people. So fantastic.
yeah, and we're unique too because not only me and Caleb, but we have a team of 5. We're not a large department.
Right. Bigger than
It's
communications.
a little bit bigger than communications, and all 5 of us are veterans.
Yeah.
So, Al, our county veteran service officer, is a retired Navy. He did 30 years in the Navy.
He strikes me as a Navy guy. I could kind of just guess. Just
a Navy
by
guy.
talking to him.
Spencer was Army. He was an Army medic. Dwayne, Air Force. What's kind of cool about that is when you think about it, it's 5 veterans serving veterans.
Right.
So there's some trust and credibility in that. So when you come to our office, you're sitting down with folks that walk the same path.
Yeah.
Wore the same uniforms.
Yeah, there's a lot of value in that, I think.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty new department in the grand scheme of things. I think it might be the newest department officially. Do you want to tell me a little bit about how it sort of came to be and what those early few days were like, and maybe some of the time before it became officially Ottawa County Veteran Services? Because I know we've been supporting veterans in some ways for a while, but it hasn't always looked like this, right?
Right. Yeah. So the way it was actually kind of set up was we had a group before us. They were a great group of people, big hearts, very passionate about helping veterans. So everything, the foundation that they laid for us is awesome. Right. They've been doing the work for a very long time. When we looked at it, I know the board looked at it and some of the leadership in the county, we wanted to take it to the next level.
Yeah.
So it's not what they were doing wasn't working or what they were doing wasn't good work. It was just time for us to take it to another level.
Yeah.
When we started the department, technically January 1st of 2024 is really when we came in and said, okay, how can we build upon the foundation that's already been laid for us before? They just weren't technically officially a department.
So they were probably limited in what they could actually do and funding, I'm sure. Yeah.
Contract services, and they didn't have all the county resources behind them as far as ITs and budgets and things of that nature. So yeah, we became a full-time county department with we looked at everything, man. We looked at what's our mission, what's our mission statement, what's our philosophy. The first few months, it was me by myself.
Right. I
literally
remember that.
by myself.
Yeah.
If I had to go to a meeting or a board meeting, there was nobody to answer the phones.
Right.
I would go back and have 20, 30 voicemails to have to reply back to.
Right.
So
Because, people would watch the meetings and immediately call.
yeah, yeah. So it was unique for that. It really was like thrown into the fire. So
Right.
I figured out things really quickly, and then was able to kind of sit down with some of the direction from our committee and say, hey, this is really where we want to go.
Mm-hmm.
We started kind of one at a time putting the staff together.
Right.
But it was everything from like new computers to, do we have the office space,
Right.
to, all the resources to really kick this thing off. We didn't have outreach. We didn't have any promotional items. When we started, none of us were an accredited veteran service officer.
Yes.
So, but it takes an accreditation process. You literally have to, you go through all the training to be able to do federal VA claims, to be an accredited claims agent, to advocate for veterans. And then that goes into this real tedious process. I think it took 6 to 7 months just to get the accreditation done. And we didn't have that as a county before.
Right.
We've relied on our outside organizations to do that VSO work, the American Legion, the VFW. But now we have the ability to do that. So
That's awesome.
myself, Dwayne, and Al, the three of us are accredited VSOs. So the three of us can do claims.
Yeah. How does having VSOs on staff help you do more for people who come in wanting help?
One, it gives us the ownership of the process.
That's big.
And it also, as a director, I'm not relying always on an outside organization to do that work.
That's important. What kind of things specifically can veterans come to your department for help with? I'm sure the list is.
I mean, I would say anything really.
Yeah.
We do have our specific services, but if a veteran needs something, they can come see us. I mean, that's the bottom line. We can get into the specifics of that, but again, we are here for veterans in any way, shape, or form. So whether it's something that we can do for them specifically, or if we have to point them in the right direction to a resource in the community, we're able and willing to do that. So
Right. Guide them through the process so they're not just relying on, stuff that they find on an internet thread of, hey, you can do this. It's a lot easier to talk to a person.
we want to be
where you
that
can ask.
reliable source of information.
And it's a very diverse population too.
Yeah.
We have veterans that are, in their 20s, and then we have veterans that, we just celebrated a 100th year birthday.
Yeah. Say born in the 20s. Yeah.
Yeah, that range of age, that when they served, how they served, and what war era they served in. You may have a younger veteran that comes in and says, hey, I pretty much did most of my stuff already.
Right.
Because they're fairly, they can navigate technology really well. And then we'll have a veteran that'll come in and, they're more comfortable with a pen and ink.
Yeah.
And then how you communicate to those generations are differently. And,
Yeah.
that's where Caleb comes in, and how, the different forms of communication that we're using to make sure that we reach everybody.
Right.
But it's a very diverse population. So when you have that also means you have diversity in their needs.
Right. Yeah. You have to adapt to make sure that nobody is left out of that.
Right. I think it's important too to understand the hierarchy within veteran services.
Right. Yeah.
So, and we actually did a name change, right? So we started off as Ottawa County Veterans Affairs, and then we changed the name to Veteran Services, because we're not Veterans Affairs.
Right.
We are not. We were being confused with the Federal Veterans Affairs.
Right. Makes sense.
And
expectations are important.
right. So when you look at the Federal Veterans Affairs, it's really broken down into three departments, really. So it starts off with Veterans Benefits Administration. So the Veterans Benefits Administration does everything from like service-connected disability compensations to survivor pensions, to aid and attendance for folks that may need in-home care or may need to go to a long-term facility. Then it goes into the Cemetery Administration. So they deal all with the burial and being buried in a national cemetery, or if there's any financial assistance with burials, headstones, markers, anything cemetery related. And then lastly, there's the Health Administration.
Yeah.
So that's when you get into what we call CBOCs, but they're the local veteran clinics. So, like for us in Ottawa County, most veterans will either use the Muskegon Clinic or they'll go to the Wyoming Clinic. So those are the three main functions of the federal VA. Our job really at that point is to make sure that we're getting them to that resource through accreditation through our claims.
Yeah.
And then you go down to the next echelon down, which would be the state, right? So the state of Michigan has a Veterans Affairs department, and they also have the Michigan Veterans Affairs Agency. So they have two different departments.
Oh, there are two different
Yeah.
ones. Oh, great.
There's two different ones at the state level. And really the state, they focus quite a bit on employment and some financial assistance. So we have the Michigan Veterans Trust Fund, and we'll assist veterans in applying for that trust fund, which is an emergent funding help. I think we've done roofs, we've done septic tanks and drain fields, mold removal. We built some wheelchair ramps. And then we get down to the county and the county resources. One of the bigger ones, obviously, is our Veteran Service Officer. But then we get into medical transportation.
Yeah.
So we have a contract with Hope Network of West Michigan. They provide medical transportation for veterans to get to any medical appointments, really. It doesn't have to be Veterans Affairs. If they have community care or a local doctor, we can get them to their medical appointments. They're ADA, so if there's wheelchairs or walkers involved, they have the ability to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can get them to any of the VA clinics. We get some folks down to Battle Creek Medical Center. We have a couple that we've gotten over to Ann Arbor to the VA hospital. So they just call us, and we schedule the appointments for them. And Hope shows up, picks them up, takes them to their appointments. And then we move into our county burial allowance, which the committee and the board raised to $600. So we'll assist with getting folks that monetary benefit.
Yeah.
And then we go into our outreach, things that we're doing with that. And then we have our county emergent funding too. So if we have individuals that may need some financial emergent need, and that's typically the smaller things.
Yeah.
An electric bill. We got some tires on a veteran's car, so we do the emergent funding.
What we try to do is assess every veteran and what it is that they need. So, if they do need financial help, it's not just simply saying, hey, here's a check. We're going to assess the whole situation.
Yeah.
Whether that's they need to file another claim or we can point them in the direction of this service. There's more to it than just simply providing financial support.
It's more comprehensive. It's more personalized.
Exactly. We want to be the one to help facilitate getting people to where they need to go.
Yeah.
And that's really where we're specialized, and we know what's available in the county locally. So folks aren't going, out to different areas that they don't need to be driving to, making unnecessary phone calls.
Right.
Doing all these lengthy processes.
You're kind of the hub of the
We
wheel
are the
in a
hub.
sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really want to be the hub of the wheel. If you think about triaging a case, when you get into case management, they may need financial assistance, and maybe they go to another organization, and that problem gets fixed.
Right.
But what's really the underlying problem?
Right. Right.
So when we have the ability to triage and assess our clients, we can really determine what they need.
Yeah.
You know.
Start at the urgent stuff and then work your way into the more.
Well, if it's financial,
Yeah.
They may have a disability claim that they never filed,
Right.
And that could be that monetary need. Maybe there's something with mental health, or maybe they've never been to the VA for health care.
I'm sure some people just say, you know what, I'm not gonna.
Oh, you'd
mess with
be
it.
be surprised
Yeah.
how often that happens.
Yeah, and that's a bummer.
Yeah. So we just want to be able to, have one-stop shop and say,
Yeah.
okay, let us lead you to where you need to go for that
Right.
additional help. Because a lot of times, I think that's the frustrating part, and not just within our department, but I think through other health and human services as well, is that there's some duplicate services out there. Folks, they get caught up in the processes, and they get very frustrated.
Yeah.
That frustration leads to eventually giving up.
Right.
You know?
Disengagement entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're at that point, you're just like, we'll talk to some people today, and they'll be like, hey, I tried and it didn't work. And
Yeah.
I'm not asking again.
Right.
And you're like, oh, come on.
Let us do it for you.
Yeah.
That's why we're here.
Yeah,
Right.
we can make this happen.
Yeah, for sure.
So
And I'm sure that's when people really think that there is no chance, and then you show them like, hey, we got you covered. Like, I'm
Exactly.
sure that's a special moment.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Caleb, why don't you tell us about some of the different outreach efforts that are going on, from social media all the way to some of the events that you guys are hosting coming up this summer?
Yeah, outreach is super important because people need to know that we're there. And so one of the goals is to get out to a lot of the local community events, whether that's going to the Berlin Fair or simply going down and having coffee and donuts with veterans at the library.
Right.
We're trying to do the whole gamut of outreach.
Right.
Real quick on the coffee and donuts, and then I'll throw it back at you. Our strategy was not necessarily to host all of our coffee and donuts.
Yeah.
We wanted our community partners to host them as well.
Right.
And this is what makes it unique. So if we just spent some time at Renew Equine, and they have a couple of different special programs for veterans and first responders. We get to witness what it is that they do.
Right.
As a department, we get to go to their facility. We get to vet it a little bit. We get to see it. We get to talk to their staff. We get to understand their mission.
Yeah.
Instead of reading on a Facebook page or their website, we get to actually physically go, pet a horse and talk to the trainers and go through that. But at the same time, we bring in veterans, right? And it's a source of camaraderie. It's a time to have conversations, but they get to witness that resource firsthand as well.
Right.
And then we give nonprofits, and like in this case, an opportunity to showcase what they do, talk about their mission, how to get involved. So it's a win-win. So instead of just coming into an office going, if I'm interested in equine therapy for my mental health, well, here's a brochure.
Right.
It's literally like we're going to have
hands-on.
Yeah. We're going there.
That's cool. And I'm sure it helps you understand the services better to be able to make that connection.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, we have a couple of people that, ask us questions about,
are you mooching on these other
yeah,
organizations?
why are you doing that? And it's just like, you're just not
partnership.
You're not seeing the strategy behind it. It really is. One, we don't want to duplicate service.
Right.
At the same time, when somebody sits down and we go through that process of finding out what they need, having a really good understanding about our community partners.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's so many.
That's what drives that, and the reason why we kind of do those things.
It's cool.
Yeah,
we
get to showcase them. So
we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, we want to lean on people that are good at what they do.
Right.
I know.
You don't want to put them out of business.
Exactly.
Or anything,
Ottawa County's not going to have a horse anytime soon, so we have Renew. I mean,
well,
we're going to utilize.
You don't know what my budget is accounting for next year. Hey.
And I think Ottawa County is unique too in that the population's really sparse in terms of you have Grand Haven, then you have Jenison, Hudsonville, and then you have Holland in the southern part. So trying to navigate all those from one central location, it's hard to do. And so if we can be more mobile and get out and have a forward-facing presence with the community, and educate and just show them what is available to them, it's super important.
Yeah, like your office right now in Holland. Well, not everybody can make it to Holland all the time. If they live in Grand Haven, that's a decent drive. But if there are events going on that you're attending in Grand Haven, there can be more visibility for the stuff you guys do, for sure.
And that also leads us into we're going to be having our new facility. Which is going to be a huge step forward. Yeah. And once we have that new facility, we're going to be able to do a lot of our own events there, which is going to be a huge step forward for community engagement.
Yeah, and that's going to be right here in West Olive. Yeah, at the Fillmore Complex.
Yeah, that was it's been a topic for about a year now.
Yeah.
We really did our due diligence when we looked at space.
Mm-hmm.
I looked at every single county building. We looked at, any opportunity that we may have had to maybe collaborate within a space. We looked at commercial property as well to see if there was anything commercially that would work. We reached out to our township partners to see if any of the townships or any of the city municipalities may have had some space that would have been available. And we really settled here on West Olive for a couple of real reasons. One, the hospitality of the public health department is amazing.
Yeah.
They're great people.
Yeah, I love going down James Street.
Yep. They've always made us feel like we're part of the team, but we've grown a little, and our space needs to be a little more private in what we do. We deal with a lot of HIPAA information, a lot of finance information.
Those are private conversations, and not sharing office space and just having immediate access is going to be imperative to getting people the help they need right away.
Yeah,
For sure.
So we settled on, when I say settled, I don't really mean settled. I mean, it was,
You landed on.
we landed on, we wanted to be out here. And one of the reasons was to be geographically centrally located in the county.
Doesn't get much more central than West
No.
Olive.
You know what they say?
Maybe Central Olive would have been better, but
equally inconvenient for everybody, right? But not just for our veterans, because our veterans again are just scattered throughout the county.
right.
And you're right. If you got to go from Coopersville or Marne down to Holland, that's a lot of blueberry and cornfield that you have to. Right. And there's no real direct route. It's mainly back roads, right? So to find somewhere that we could be a little bit closer, especially for our aging veterans, so they don't have to navigate as much. And the second part is for us as a department, it puts us to where we can be within our communities a lot faster. We're doing a lot of outreach events. We're doing some home visits now. We're partnering up with our veteran service organizations like the VFWs and the Legions. So to be a little bit more centrally located allows us to be a little more effective and efficient in what we're doing. So, but this space here is going to be built to suit what we do. So we'll have enough offices that we'll have, we can do private counseling sessions and do federal claims. We'll have some workstations, so if veterans want to come in and they need a computer, if they need to get on their va.gov, or maybe they're working on a resume for a job, or, we'll have those resources there.
Very cool.
And like Caleb was saying, really we want it to be a spot where our veterans and their families are comfortable. They want to come, even if they just want to sit on the couch and have a cup of coffee and tell a story. They'll have that opportunity. Yeah, we're excited for the groundbreaking on July 1st.
And some of the larger events we have this year, we're hosting our first ever job fair in July 28th. That's going to coincide with National Hire a Veteran Day, which is on July 25th.
Oh, nice.
And so we're going to have a lot of big names from the county present at that event, offering resources, job training, job opportunities, and just showcasing what it is that they do. And although it's geared towards veterans, we're leaving it open to the public as well.
Okay.
We want it to be open for everyone to come and experience some of the great companies and organizations in Ottawa County. There's a lot to offer, and we want to expose that. So
That's cool.
We might have ice cream sandwiches.
Whoa. Okay. Hold on. Details on that one.
yeah, so that's July 28th. That's
Okay.
going to be from 10 to 2 p.m.
Okay.
It's going to be here at the Fillmore Main Administration Complex.
It's gonna be here in this room, I heard.
It's going to be in Conference Room H. That is this room. So
We'll do a live podcast episode.
no, but it's going to be a terrific event. I'm super excited about it. Hopefully, we can help some vets and some community members as well.
Yeah.
Find some opportunities.
We've been saying this like 3 or 4 times. It's a win-win. Sometimes we throw a third win in there too. It's a win-win-win.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's awesome.
We have coming up in September as well the Stand Down and Resource Fair,
Yeah.
or so I heard.
Yep, the Stand Down and Resource Fair. So it's interesting because Jason, before the rest of the team was assembled, hosted one last year in Holland, which was just an amazing event. And I actually ended up showing up to that event through an email I got from Jason and whatnot. And long story short, now here I am working for the department. So it had an impact on me, and I think it's going to have an impact on a lot of veterans. It's kind of our Super Bowl event, if you will. There was over 60 vendors last year, close to 200 veterans and their family members showed up.
Wow.
And so the stand down portion is specifically geared for homeless and at-risk veterans. So we're going to have the federal VA there providing support, Secretary of State, the state of Michigan.
I got my license renewed.
Oh, did you?
At the one last year.
Yeah.
great.
So just having those resources on site to help the homeless and at-risk population.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, the resource fair component of it is for all vets. And so that's another way for us to highlight community organizations, nonprofits that are involved with the veteran community and what they can do for veterans.
Kind of taking the idea of the coffee and donuts, but then we're bringing it all.
Yep, and it's
one
a lot of
place.
fun too. I mean,
Yeah.
you're meeting veterans, you're having some food, there's some entertainment. It's just a cool event to network and see what's available. So we're really excited for that one. So the resource fair is in Grand Haven. That's at Central Park Place. It's at an event center near the park there. It's going to be from 10 to 2 p.m. What are the
September 18th.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah,
September 18th from 10 to 2 p.m. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's going to be very diverse in the fact of the agencies that are going to be there. It will cover the gamut of veterans that are in critical need to veterans and families that are doing extremely well.
Right. Who just want
That
more community.
Just may want to learn about what's happening in the community or what other resources are out there.
And could just be someone who is friends with a veteran.
Absolutely.
And wants to see what options are out
Yeah.
there.
Knowledge is power. So
Absolutely. Hey, I always say that.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, even if you're just an ally that wants to show up to learn more about what's available, it'll be there. We're working on food, so we should have lunch and some food. Maybe ice cream again.
Hey.
See, gotta have the ice cream.
Gotta have that ice cream.
Yeah,
July is Ottawa County Veterans Month.
yeah.
I want to talk about how that came to be what that means for your department and for the people you serve.
Yeah, it was. There was a couple of commissioners that were excited to champion this. So it's really the board, our department, our committee, the leadership within the county just felt that it was important to say, hey, this is something we want to get behind. And I think the vision of it really is that, we kind of take the lead with it, but that it grassroots. We're hoping that community partners and corporate partners and other municipalities will really start to think about the things that they can do in the month of July.
Yeah.
July was it's a patriotic month. You kick it off with 4th of July, but we have some pretty big plans moving forward. Our groundbreaking kicks off in July. We have some corporate community leaders that want to give back in some way. So there'll be some things that are happening with that. We also, going back just a little bit too, our work and collaborative effort with the county parks, we got the reduced rates for the veterans now.
Yeah.
So that would be another thing, because I also think July is, the parks month too. So
In a way, yeah.
in a way, I think we're going to collaborate with the parks on some things as well. But yeah, well, as we move forward, definitely going into next summer,
Yeah.
we're really going to have some things going and some partnerships with.
It's good to put a label on something sometimes. You want every month to be a month where you're focusing on veterans because that's, what you
Yes.
do. But to put that out there as a special dedicated month sort of sends that signal out to everybody else like, hey, get in on this. Let's work together on this.
Yeah, and this year, this July will be the first one. And
Yeah.
so, like Jason said, moving forward for next year, we have some really big plans to
Right.
make it a really comprehensive month and,
Yeah.
quite frankly, a lot of fun.
What else can folks do, whether they are a veteran, whether they are friends with a veteran family member, someone who just respects and cares about veterans? What can they do to stay involved and stay informed about what's going on in the county?
Well, first thing I would say is subscribe to our emails.
Yep.
And if you're not doing so already, follow us on social media. You're going to get the most real-time updates that way. But outside of that, we're always looking for volunteers for events like our stand down, possibly some volunteers for our job fair. And if people just want to help out and get involved, contact us. We can find ways to make that happen.
Yeah.
Whether you're a business leader, an organization, or you're just an individual, we have opportunities, and we have plenty of veterans that need the assistance.
Cool.
We do. It's about purpose too, especially within the veteran community. Veterans, they need something, right? They need purpose. So if they want to volunteer to help and it gives them some purpose, we'll absolutely find a way for them to be involved.
Absolutely.
So it's good for their physical health, their mental health.
Yeah.
So that
Finding purpose is important. I
is.
think some people get the purpose from their job. Some people have to find it, somewhere else, whether it's their family, whether it's volunteering, or just having a community of some sort.
I was going to say, just speaking for myself, in terms of purpose, my purpose was the military when I was in. And, once you get out of that world, it's hard to reconnect and refocus on what your purpose is.
Yeah.
And so we can be that segue for a veteran to rediscover that purpose.
Yeah. Not to be confused with rediscovering the porpoise, which would be a more oceanic
adventure that you can go on. But purpose is important.
No porpoises.
No,
purpose.
not yet.
Yeah, you show up.
You
in the
don't know what
office
my
with a
budget
dolphin.
has.
After the horse.
Yeah, don't show up with a dolphin. We don't need dolphins. You know, we tend to work with veterans when it's usually almost too late, right?
Or at least feels like it.
It almost feels like it, and their families are going through difficult times. So my message has always been, you know, be proactive.
Get ahead of it, yeah.
And reach out to us so that at least we can sit down and talk through options and education.
Yeah.
There may not be a benefit. You know, not every veteran qualifies for everything, right? But for at least for us to sit down and really have that tough conversation, especially when it comes to end-of-life care. You know, what are we going to do? So
Having that trusted
so
person you can go to. Yeah.
get a hold of us, you know, and let's just sit down and have that conversation. So
And like we kind of talked about, maybe there isn't a benefit for something specific, but, you know, you guys are creative. Maybe we can come up with a way to get some other benefit for some other area that frees up some of your funds or some of your space in your brain for you to worry about something that is an issue, right?
Yeah. We hear it every day too. Veterans will come in and say, well, you know, I don't need that. That's for the other guy, or, you know, save that for someone that really needs it. Well, we represent less than 1% of the population in America. So every veteran is the other guy.
Yeah.
So we need to get people access to those benefits.
Right. And when someone has their needs met, they're capable of so much more, right? And they can sort of allow this to be a ripple effect. If they have some of their needs met, they can
100%.
help someone else. And it just goes and it goes until eventually everybody is totally okay and nothing is ever a problem.
yeah.
That's exactly what's going to happen. Well, that's all for this segment here. Make sure you look below for links to information about everything we talked about, resources to get in touch with the Veteran Services Department and learn more. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having us,
Appreciate
Scott.
it. Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that segment as much as I did. It was very informative and enlightening, and I just want to thank Caleb and Jason for coming on, and I want to thank the entirety of the Ottawa County Veteran Services Department for the work that they do. It can be difficult at times. It's extremely important, extremely personal work. It's vital to make sure that every member of our society is taken care of and has their needs met, because when that happens, it's like I said, a ripple effect that just makes the whole world a better place. So that's all we have for you today. Make sure you are liking this video if you're watching on YouTube, or giving us a rating if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, because that sort of hacks the algorithm to send this and recommend it to more people on their suggested pages. And eventually my goals of world domination, at least county domination, can come closer to fruition here. Remember, folks, knowledge is power, and local government works best when you're a part of it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to Ottawa Out Loud. Make sure to let us know what you think with a like, review, or comment, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new episode. Check the description for links to everything we talked about in the show. See you next time.